Now, my most popular video on this channel is about a 90s sports saloon. In this video, we are going back to a decade prior and looking at another sports executive saloon, the Rover SD1 Vitesse. So, get your mullets and moustaches and denim and bright colours and whatever else they wore back then. I wasn't around. We're going back to the 80s. Our journey will take a little detour to the 1970s, however, so be prepared for that. I suggest you bring a torch just in case of power cuts. Anyway, in 1971, British Leyland began work on a new car to replace the Triumph 2000 and Rover P6. David Back was the head of the design team. He was inspired by exotic machinery such as the Ferrari Daytona and design of the late 1960s. Spen King was responsible for the engineering. David and Spen, it sounds like a kid's cartoon, already knew each other as they had worked together on the Range Rover. The car was designed to be simple to make, unlike the P6 which it would replace. Rover planned to use the fairly new 2.2 litre inline-4 engine, but British Leyland were like, no, use that old Triumph 6-cylinder. However, Leyland did use the Rover V8. The car was launched in 1976 as the V8 Rover 3500. 2.3 litre and 2.6 litre inline sixes followed in 1977. The car was never marketed as the SD1. The models were named after their engine sizes. For example, you had the 2600, the 2000 and the 2300. But the first one, which was released in 1976, was the 3500. Other models followed afterwards. SD1 stood for Special Division 1 and was a code name for all models. Nowadays, people tend to group them together and just call all the cars the Rover SD1. So, how was the car received? Well, the press absolutely hated it. Oh wait, sorry, I got that bit wrong in the script. They really liked it. Autocar said the new 3500 should be one of the successes of the decade, and if that wasn't enough, it was nominated the European Car of the Year in 1977. And if that wasn't enough, it was also seen on TV in The Professionals and The New Avengers. And if that wasn't enough, it was also used by the British police throughout the country. However, it being a product of British Leyland did have its issues. Car magazine Motor reported that you could see daylight through the gaps in the doors and the window frames, and a steering vibration at speed, which could have come from the fact that the wheels may not have been balanced correctly. The paint also had an issue. It would flake, which meant some cars had to be repainted. Now, let's skip forwards a couple years to 1979. The idea for a performance version of the Rover SD1 was never seriously considered. British Leyland's cars, apart from their sports cars, the Triumph Stag, the MGB, were normal 70s cars. Common trends include the colour brown, a vinyl roof and velour upholstery in some more upmarket models. You know, typical 70s car things. Please do let me know in the comments if I have got any features wrong or missed out a common one. Anyway, my point is, British Leyland were making the Austin Allegro at this time, so they didn't really think they need this normal executive everyday car. They didn't really think they could make a sports version. However, this did change in 1979, when the Group 1 regulations for the 1980 British Saloon Car Championship saw the limit of the engine capacity being changed from 3 litres to 3.5 litres. British Leyland's Motorsport director, John Davenport, really liked the change, as it meant they could enter the SD1 into the race as a successor for the Triumph Dolomite. FIA regulations meant that only small modifications beyond a showroom car were permitted. These modifications were mainly to the brakes, the suspension, and some minor tinkering to the engine. Rover entered some cars for that season, however, results were mixed. Rover wanted to be more competitive. Rover needed to make a performance version of the SD1. The project was initiated in April 1980 by David Clark, who was the product development manager for Rover Triumph. He wanted to add a sporting high-performance version to the SD1 range. He also wanted to get rid of the old person image, which had kind of stuck with Rover. The valves were upgraded, a new carburetor and exhaust manifold were fitted, new anti-roll bars and a new limited slip differential were among the upgrades done to the Rover. Rover were planning to call their new sports car the Rover Rapide. They went as far as designing graphics for it. However, Aston Martin had a slight problem. You alright, lads? You alright? Yeah. How's the new performance SD1 coming along? Good, thanks. What were you going to call it again? The Rover Rapide. Excuse me? The Rover Rapide. Rapide? Yeah. No. No. What? You didn't ask for permission. What? That's our name. We own that. You know, Lagonda Rapide. You haven't used it since 1964. And it's still ours. Please, can we use it? No. But no. Come up with your own name. Oh, So Rover had to come up with a new name. This name ended up being the French word for speed. Therefore, the car would be called the Rover Vitesse. The finished product had about 190 brake horsepower, around 220 pound-feet of torque, and had a top speed of 130 miles per hour. On the track, the Vitesse was good. It won the 1984 British Saloon Car... Jesus, what happened there? It won the 1984 British Saloon Car Championship amongst some other events. The SD1 stayed in production until '86, when it was replaced by the Rover 800 series. So, why do I love the Rover SD1 Vitesse? Well, it's just cool. And I know that isn't a word at all which describes a lot of Rovers, mostly belonging to old men, but it just is. I like its square 70s, 80s styling, you know. I like the shape of it. I like the rectangle headlights. I like the tail lamps. I love the way the interior looks. It's just so 80s. Well, especially on the Series 2 models. The gauge cluster is just one big rectangle. In modern cars, everything has flowing lines and they're all designed to look as elegant and as posh, as beautiful as possible. But back then, the designers just went, plonk, here's your gauge cluster. It's some rectangles inside of another rectangle, amongst other rectangles. And that is what a lot of 80s car had. That was normal for then. And that is why I love the Rover Vitesse, because it speaks of another era. It speaks of an era where cars were more rectangular, moustaches were normal, and Rover was a brand. And yes, it might be slightly unreliable. Yes, it isn't the best built car in the world. Yes, the doors may fall off if you fill it with water, but I really do like the Rover SD1 Vitesse. And that is it. That is video number 3 in the Why I Love series. Thank you very much for watching. If you did enjoy, please do go down below, leave a like, and when you're down there, please do subscribe. That would be much appreciated. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time. And goodbye.